As all of you may know, William Afton's death has an important place in Five Nights at Freddy's timeline. He dies when he gets locked inside the Springlock suit, Spring Bonnie, and turns into Springtrap. But today we're not going to discuss about Springtrap. We're going to discuss about Springlocks. We know for a fact that Springlocks can crush bones, and Springlocks are also able to cut through the flesh, and they give slow and certain death. We all know Springlocks were used at Fredbear's, and we all know Springlocks were a part of Fazbear's franchise when Freddy Fazbear's was open. What we don't know, however, is did Springlocks crush William's balls? The topic of balls is simply kind of hard to understand because we don't know where Springlocks were placed into and we don't know where metal is inside the suit. But today, I'm going to discover it. Step by step, I'm going to analyze the suit and also I'm going to analyze, are they able to crush William's balls? First, I want to listen the phone calls of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 concerning the Springlock suits.
To change the animatronics to suit mode, insert and turn firmly the hand crank provided by the manufacturer. Turning the crank will recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit, providing room to climb inside.
So my basic assumption is like this. You take the crank, you press against the Springlocks, you turn them, and the metal is now stuck with Springlocks. So how can they fail?
Do not breathe on the Springlocks, as moisture may loosen them and cause them to break loose.
As you have heard, moisture inside a room or breathing heavily into the Springlocks, or basically breathing wrong, may trigger the Springlocks when you're inside and when Springlocks are inside the suit mode and not the animatronic mode. And when they get triggered, they simply let go of the metal and the metal just compresses so hard to your skin that you die. So, we know how they work, and now we need to analyze where are the Springlocks located. So, we know there are endoskeleton parts inside the arms and the head of the suit. So, yes, there are Springlocks inside the arm area, or there are also Springlocks inside the leg area, because there is metal inside the suit. Without metal, without endoskeleton parts, the animatronic is basically nothing. It's just a slumped over suit when the metal is connected to Springlocks. But when metal doesn't exist, the animatronic can't move. So feet, hands, and torso has Springlocks too. That means animatronic is able to move and perform on stage. But what we don't know is the parts beneath the area of that pelvis. William's ball was located in his pelvis, so that means if there are Springlocks like in that certain area, that can crush William's bones because there's also metal. Now we need to analyze the endoskeleton of the Springlocks. Basic Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 1 endoskeleton both have those metals inside their pelvis area. So imagine those endos like Springlock suit endoskeletons. They would split open and they leave space for a human to fit inside. That would mean if a human just wears the suit, they can crush the pelvis area and balls too. Now the spring body. The basic spring body model or Springtrap model has something inside their pelvis areas. You see the legs, you see the arms. Those arms and legs both have cage-like structures inside the endoskeleton. So about the pelvis, you can see there are no cages like there is in torso, there is in head, and there are in arms and legs, but nothing in pelvis. But you know what? The cage is not necessary for balls to crash. There is a metal object inside the pelvis area, so if a human should fit inside, this area needs to be compressed nearby the Springlocks and be attached by the Springlocks. So with the cages, humans' torso, legs, and arms can fit inside, while the human's pelvis can fit inside as well. But when Springlocks let go of the pelvis, what happens? It just crushes immediately. That was a basic assumption, but now I need to prove it right. You see the flesh inside the spring body. This is William's flesh, and you can see how innards work inside William's flesh. There are a lot of crushed and messy innards inside William Afton, and some of them are just stuck around the metal. But what you can also notice is that the pelvis area has almost no flesh, because William Afton's balls were crushed. It starts with the arms, it starts with the legs, and it just happens to the torso as well, into the pelvis, when the metals compress against humans' flesh. So humans' flesh just got dismembered, all of it. But there was no cage inside the pelvis, so that would hurt a lot. The balls were squished and crushed slowly as William Afton screamed inside the safe room, but there was no help, as he died alone. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video that I have prepared and made basically a long research about it. So that was all of it. Just balls, you know.